So we are learning Java basics on a big course for Selenium automation. And today we are going to cover very important topic, which is object-oriented concepts, object-oriented programming. But this will take some time. It's not like that in single day you will understand all the object-oriented programming concepts, right? It will take time because there are a lot of things to learn here. Okay. So one by one, we will cover those things. So the basic building block is class and object concept. Okay. Once you understand it, then only object-oriented programming concept we will be able to understand practically. Theoretically, you can learn even without knowing all these things. But if you want to do it in a practical way, we have to understand class and object first. Okay, so what are object oriented principle and all that we will see later on. Okay, but we have to understand why we call it object oriented, why we say it's object oriented, right? Something like this, why it is object oriented. So let's understand that. And you must have learned it or have seen it theoretically. Most of the places it's written that class is a real world entity, correct? Somewhere you must have seen it, like it's real world entity, something like this. Okay. Let's understand that in object-oriented programming, right, um, there will always be something, where all other things will happen around that only. So, for example, let's say when you open a website, okay, you search a product. What you are doing? You are searching product. Search in generally in, let's say, e-commerce website. What you do? You search product, correct? So here, when you're searching a product, what is in the center? What is the main thing you are doing? Searching is a function. Searching is something, it's a kind of action which you are doing, right? But actually the details, right, or the data is centric to what? Product. The product is a real world entity. Okay, so in the background there must be some data related to product is stored, right? Or maybe you're filling a form where you are searching the data about a particular product, right? One thing. More simple example is, let's say there is a school, and in the admission page, they must be using a form, right, where you are filling all the details like student name, um, standard, address, phone number, roll number, and all. Uh, so that is around what? Student, correct? So student can also be a class. That's why we say it's a real world entity. It's a real world entity. Anything, if you think, anything where there will be some properties and you can do some action around it, that can become class. That can become a class. Okay. Now, uh, practically, if you will see, um, if you create a class in Java, how you do it? You say new class, correct? I'm expecting that you all have Java in your system and Eclipse or IntelliJ IDEA, any of the IDE you have in your system. So here, when I'm simply saying student, let's say, okay, and I'll create this class. create this class. So what is happening? It is showing me these many things. Let's understand one by one. It is showing me that there is a package practice is there, right? So package is, we created this package, right? Inside that there are different classes. So it's showing that you are inside practice package and the class name is public class student. Okay. Now when we're saying public class student, that means public means it's access specifier, it is that it will be available to other classes also. As of now, understand it. We are going to talk about public, private, protected in a separate class, in a separate session. But let's understand as of now, public means it's available. It's available to other classes and other packages as well. In a simple word, it is like this. Okay. What is class here? Class is a keyword to define a class. Simple thing. Class is a keyword to define a class. Simple. And is a reserved keyword. And it will be like this only. It's not like that you can have capital C or you can write something else to define a class. It's a keyword provided by Java itself. Student is the name of the class. You can have anything. It's a user-defined class name. So you can put anything if you want, right? Now, when we are saying classes, right, it will have its own properties. It will have its own properties. So whenever we say class, there are two things basically. Let me open something here. Whenever you will say class, there will be two things basically, fields and methods, right? Fields and method. Okay. So what are fields? So we will understand these two things first. There are other things also, but fields and method. So when we say fields or the properties, it's very simple. What a student can have. Student can have roll number, Student can have name. Let's have these two thing only, right? We will not put a lot of things as of now. There can be phone number, standard, section. So let's do that thing so that you will cover at least three kind of data, right? Character, section, can we say? Section is like A, B, C, D, those things, right? Okay, let's take those things then. Integer, standard. Okay, so stdl, right? Or standard, it's fine. Or what you can say, in which standard you are, we say that thing only, right? In which class you are. I don't want to use the class word. Okay, let's use standard only. Can anybody suggest me any other thing? Because I don't want to use a standard word. Instead of class or standard, what other things we can say about a student, that he or she is in third student standard or fourth or fifth, right? If you can suggest me, tell me in chat window. Okay, so when we say a class, student, it will have its own properties, correct? And it can have function also. It can have some functions which will work on this. Generally, we cannot say it will always, but it can work on it. So for example, show student detail can be a function which will show the detail, okay, which will show the student detail. I'm not covering this part as of now because we want to understand first the class and the properties part in detail, and it's very important to understand that part. Section is, we have room, no, somebody's saying. So what I'm saying is instead of standard, what we can put like, anyways, it's fine. As of now, we are putting it as standard. Now, let's understand. There will be, data type of properties and there will be method kind of properties for a class. For a single class, there will be data properties and method properties. Okay. Now, when you create a class like this, you are actually combining its properties into a single data type. Okay. That's why classes are called user-defined data type. Okay. User-defined data type. There are primitive data types, which is provided by the Java language, let's say integer, char, and all right, double, float, those things. But class itself is a user-defined data type. What we are doing, we are combining 4 different data type into a single data type. Understand in this way. Okay. Now, what happens in the background when you create a class? That it is very important to understand. When you create a class, nothing is happening in the background basically, because when you create the object, then only something happens. So, but let's understand the concept of class and object through a picture. Okay. So let's assume that this is the class name. We declared a class, correct? We declared that there is a class. Fine. And the name of that class is student. Student. Great. And when we declared it, we are saying that there are these many properties. These many properties like roll number and what are the other things, name and all, right? We declared it like this. Fine. That's it. 4 things we have. Now, this is the mold. We can say in other word, this is the mold. When you create the bricks, right? You have a single mold or the 2 or 3 mold, and then you create the similar type of bricks, correct? Similar kind of bricks you create, right? So what will happen? This is a class. Whenever you will create an object, the exact copy will be created. So let me show you what I'm saying is, there is a way in Java, when you create the object, the line is something like this. You will say student S1, you can give any name, is equals to new student. Right? You do this thing to create, but what happens in the background, that you have to understand. And once you understand it, it will be very easy for you to understand other object-oriented concepts. When you say student S1 is equals to new student, what happens in the background is it actually search that, okay, it's a new student. So it will search for a class which is which has the name student. And what it will do, it will make a copy of this. It will make a copy of this and it will say, okay, let's create a new one, right? But here, for a reference, the name of this particular object will not be student, it's S1. Okay, so we can say student S1. Fine, it's like this. Exact copy it will be. All the data which you have declared at class level will go to its object. Will go to its object also. So for example, if we'll create another one, let's say if you create another student, okay, so again a new copy will be there, maybe student S5 or any name if it has. So let's say this is S5. Okay, It will have roll number, its own roll number, its own name, its own section, its own standard, right? So things are getting easier. Earlier, let's say there is no class concept. If you want to declare student one's roll number, student one's name and section as standard, you will be doing integer S1 roll number, string S1 name, character S1 section, integer S1 standard. Then another variable you will declare, integer S2 roll number, something like that. It will be very difficult for you to manage it. But now what you are doing, you are combining multiple data type and giving it to a template student and saying, okay, now onwards, my data type is a student now. It's like this. In other words, I'm saying, okay, it will happen like this. So class is just a template. Class is just a template. When you create the object, these data will go with that object. I'm not saying the value of the object. It's just the empty data will go. So all these things are empty, means there is no roll number allocated. It will be just memory allocation will be done. Memory allocation for these will be done, or memory will be reserved for that. It's like this. So here, if you see, there is integer, there is a character, there is integer standard, 4 things are there, right? But now how to create the object of this, right? So I'm using the main function so that I'll show you the execution also. How we create the main function, we say public static void main in Java. Okay, I'm talking all the things in terms of Java language only. And here we will create the object. Let's understand, everything happens under the class only. See here, the scope of the class is started here. Scope of the class is ending at this particular line, 19th line as of now, right? So here, how to create the object? You say student. Let's say the name of the student for reference is student S1 is equals to new student. All right, you say it like this. Now, this is created. This one is created. Student S1 is equals to new student. And all these things, right, will be a part of S1 as well. So this is like creating the photocopy. What is the object? If somebody will ask you, hey, what is object? Can you explain me in simple words? It's actually a copy of the class. It's actually a copy of the class, which will have all its data properties, and it will be able to access all the method properties also, right? There are methods also, which will be accessible through object, okay? Now, the question is, when you're creating the object, right, how to fill these values for the S1? How to fill these values? It's very simple. You can now use the S1 reference to do anything. So you can say S1 dot name is equals to, let's say, QA testology. Okay. S1 dot. When you put the dot, it will show automatically some options to you. Roll number is equals to 102. S1 dot section, which should be a char. See here, it's showing you all the detailed properties, data type. That S1 dot char section is actually a character. So S1 dot section is equals to, you have to put in single quote. Let's say section is B section. And S1 dot standard is equals to, let's say, class 9th. Okay, so I'll say 9 only. That's it. So what will happen in the background when you do this thing? basically here the values will be filled. So roll number will be filled as whatever roll number you have put, 102. Then what was the name, whatever name you have put, right? That will be presented here. Let's say that QA testology will come here. Then this section you have provided, right? So that will be B, and then standard, whatever you have provided, that is 9, I think. So this value will get filled through dot operator. So dot is also one kind of operator here, which you are saying S1 dot. So to access the data, to access the all the data properties, you use dot operator here. Okay, that's it. Filled. Values are filled. Done. The good part is you can create as many student as you want. So if I want to create another student, I'll be able to create it. I'll say student, let's say any name you can give. I'm giving you, let's say S2 is equals to new student, and let's give some name here. So for example, here we can give John, roll number is 115, section is A, standard 9, same thing, that's fine. You have filled the value. There are multiple ways to fill the values, right? So in the next section, we will see what are the other ways to fill it. But before that, let's print the things. So what I'm saying is, you have method properties also. So what you can do, you can create a function. You can create a function, and the proper signature is public void. How to create a function in Java? You have to give the access specifier, the return type, and the function name. So we have given it, and now print it. So for example, I will say system.out.println, 4 properties, right? So I want to print roll, no, not in double quote, directly say roll number, and what we want to print, we want to print 4 things, right? So we want to print roll number, name, we want to print section, and we want to print standard. Great. So here, once you fill the values, you can call the method. So S1 dot show detail, show student detail. That's it. And I'm not displaying S2 as of now. Let's see S1 only. So here, if you see, what we have done is we have created a function which will, the task of this function is just to show the detail, nothing else. Okay. So when we will run this program, it's showing me 115, John, A9, all those things. Okay. So it is showing me, oh, it's showing me S2. Just a minute. So we have created, because, but, we made a mistake. We did not put the value in S2. We did a override onto S1 itself. So it should be S2. Yes, now it's fine. So now it should say QA testology because we are calling S1 dot show detail. Okay, done. These variables are called class level variable. Let me write it. These are class level variables. This is also called instance variable. Instance variable. Why this is called instance variable? Because uh, because these will go with the object or the instance. The other name for um, object is instance. That is why it is called instance variable. Why? Because this is defined at class level. Okay, it is not under any other function, it's at class level. See here, this class is here and you're declaring something here, right? Also you can declare it somewhere also else also, but the thing is it should be at class level, it should not be under any function. Okay, so here when you're declaring it, it is, you know, at class level, and this is called instance variable. Also, I'm repeating why this is called instance. One of the reason is when you create the object, it goes with this instance. So when you're creating the object new student, the reference which you have provided S1, it will go with that. So here in a simple word, when you are creating S1 or S5, anything, these all the variables are getting copied to S5 also. That's why it is called instance variable. Okay. That's it, guys. Now, if you have any question, let me know.